Los Angeles, California receives its first recorded snowfall. George Orwell's 1984 was published in London, and the B-50 Superfortress Lucky Lady 2 lands in Fort Worth, Texas, USA, making it the first flight around the world, refueling 4 times in flight. The year is 1949, and this was the first hardtop convertible offered in the USA that you've never heard of, the Playboy. But before getting into this one, I'm your host, Jay. Welcome to What It's Like, the automotive channel that brings to light some car companies that you may have never heard of. We dive in deep on the history, specs, design. At the end of each episode, there is a complete walk around so you can see these cars like you've never seen them before. If any of that sounds of interest to you, subscribe and hit the bell icon next to it to never miss a video. Real quick announcement. I want to bring back a segment that we tried earlier this year called Part of the Conversation. And actually, this has been brought to my attention as well. I use Classic Car Catalog a lot when researching. They have a really good way of laying everything out, like all the different models and stuff. And it came to my attention that they took down the site. I knew that in years past that they have had issues with the site, like they take it down. And this actually really pisses me off that somebody sued them for copyright infringement. All they're trying to do is keep the information out there for anybody that's interested. If anybody has the information to get a hold of the person that's responsible, I would love to have him on Part of the Conversation. I would love to talk to him one-on-one, and I would love for you guys to chime in too. And I really want to see that site reinstated because it really pisses me off. Anyway, 1949 Playboy model lineup. But before getting into all of that, Playboy Motor Car Company, not to get confused with the Jordan Playboy, which came decades before this car and has no affiliation with it. The adult magazine by the same name, also no affiliation with Playboy Motor Car Company, which was founded in 1947 by Lou Horowitz, who was a used car salesman and sold lots of cars. He would meet Norm Richardson, who was a mechanic and had a collision center in Buffalo, New York. Horowitz would meet former Pontiac engineer Charlie Thomas when he was picking up one of his cars over at Richardson's shop. Norm Richardson and Thomas would build their own car in 1938 called the Thomas Rocket Car. It was a streamlined car and had many advanced features like independent four-wheel suspension, extra padding. Also notice the wheels are covered much like a Nash, and maybe that's where they got the inspiration to do the future Nash cars. To me, this looks like if Stout Scarab and Davis had a kid, this is what that car would look like. The thought of a small, affordable car for the masses festered inside Horowitz's mind. After the war, he, along with Richardson and Thomas, would join forces to form Playboy Motor Car Corporation, with Horowitz at the helm as president, Thomas vice president, Richardson treasurer. The vision was to build a cheap, runabout car priced less than $1,000. Horowitz put up $50,000 capital of his own money to build the prototype. Thomas designed the car and was built in Richardson's garage over the course of 7 months in total secret. The car was displayed at the Shatter Hotel in Buffalo, New York for about a week in February of 1947. Interest for the car was high. Also, you have to remember that the Big Three was using dies that were facelifted from before the war, so they wasn't building anything new. This was a brand new car. The prototype had a rear-mounted engine with a soft top. In the months that followed, they would hand-build 95 pre-production models and would move the engine to the front to try to mitigate engineering difficulties with rear-engine cars, trying to make the car as easy to produce as possible. All of the bodies and trim were made at the shop in Buffalo. To keep costs down, Playboy would buy other components from other car manufacturers and assemble the cars in-house, using Studebaker and Chevrolet parts, as well as other parts from other manufacturers. The pre-production cars was intended to create publicity and to establish a dealership network. They were shooting for 800 to 900 dealers throughout the country, with the manufacturer goal of 100,000 units a year. Playboy needed $20 million to get a factory up and running and was hoping to obtain the capital through dealer franchises and sale of stock. In 1948, Playboy would acquire a large, up-to-date plant just outside Buffalo, New York, and everything was coming together. Tucker was another startup company that was going to take the automotive world by the balls. Preston Tucker, to come up with capital to build his cars, he sold dealership franchises as well as Tucker Accessories, which buying the accessories got you a spot in line for a Tucker car. Long story short, Securities and Exchange Commission didn't much care for Tucker's business practices, and they thought it was a Ponzi scheme, and began investigating Tucker's company. And then came the indictments and then the trial. The trial scared a lot of investors, not just in Tucker's company, but also Playboy, because they were kind of doing the same thing. Playboy had a stock sale in May of 1948, right after the whole Tucker debacle. Timing was terrible, and there wasn't enough investors to fund a full production. There was also an idea of maybe selling the rights to the Playboy to Henry J. Kaiser, who wanted to build his own small car for the masses. Kaiser would offer a buyout of $333,000 for both Horowitz and Richardson. And Thomas wanted to take the deal. Horowitz didn't, and Richardson would side with Horowitz. And so they tried a second stock share in March of 1949 for less, with scaled back production goal. But investors had cold feet, and it ultimately failed. On April 14th, 1949, Playboy filed for bankruptcy. Let's talk specs. 154.7 inches long, 58.7 inches wide. It rides a wheelbase of 90 inches. It weighs 2,035 pounds. Price, $985, which would be equivalent to you spending $13,049.22 in the year 2024. This car was only available as a two-door convertible, but it's worth mentioning that they did want to offer a wagon at one point or another, but it never made it to production. All told, Playboy production was 99 units, 95 pre-production units, 3 production units, and 1 prototype. Moving on to engine. Playboy used whatever engine they could get a hold of. They used Hercules, Continental, even a Willis engine. 132.7 cubic inch displacement, flathead 4. 2.1 liters. It was good for anywhere between 40 to 48 horsepower, 3,500 RPM, 98 pound-feet, or 133 newton meters, around 1,800 RPM, with a bore of 3.25 inches and a stroke of 4 inches. Compression was 7-to-1. When backed with a 3-speed manual Borg-Warner with overdrive. 0 to 60 could be had in 26.9 seconds, with a theoretical top speed of 70 miles per hour while achieving an average of 25 miles to the gallon, perhaps more. Let's talk styling. Huge headlight bezels with bright bezels, running lights and or turn signal indicators just below it. Bumper is clean without bumperettes and or overriders. Massive license plate bracket. 3 bright bars that sort of look like louvers at this angle. Hood has all kinds of different lines sculpted into it. Playboy logo. Fenders are rolled rocker trim. Antenna is mounted to the fender. This car doesn't have a cowl vent. Windshield wipers that follow. No bright work around the windshield. The rear fender covers 1/3 of the wheel. Also notice the faint beltline channel. Taillights stick out with bezels around. Bumper mimics the front bumper. Gas filler with Playboy logo on it. External trunk hinges. Coming down inside the pedal box, high beam switch, clutch, brake, gas pedal. Notice that the clutch and the brake are attached to the firewall. They're suspended. Here is what over the hood looks like. Here is what first person looks like. On to the button switches and knobs, moving from the left to the right. Overdrive, amp meter, gasoline gauge, 100 mile per hour speedometer with odometer just below it, and it's flanked by turn signal indicators. Oil pressure, coolant temperature, starter button, key, choke, vertical radio, which looks like a Chrysler unit. So this is a folding hardtop.
pretty cool.
Thank you.
Taking a real quick gander under the hood, 6-volt battery, flathead 4, downdraft carburetor, the intake and exhaust is all on the same side, distributor mounted in the front, single master brake cylinder, non-power assisted. Coil is mounted to the top of the block. Generator. On the positive side, rare. You will be the only one at the car show with this car unless it's a Playboy show. Of the 99 cars, only 43 are known to survive. Really cool disappearing top concept because the engines were run-of-the-mill and they used a Borg-Warner 3-speed transmission. Parts can be found. They are a really cool conversation piece. Against it, body parts are impossible to find and would probably need to be made. All right, now it's time for Would You Rather. 2 scenarios today. In the first scenario, would you rather have a 1949 Crosley Hotshot or 1949 Playboy or 1950 Nash Rambler? I'm going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. On to the second scenario, 1949 Saab 92 or 1949 Playboy or 1948 Davis. Once again, going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. Now it's time for Name That Tune. First person to give both the name of the band and the song title correctly in the comment section will have their comment pinned to the top of the comment section. Thank you all so much for coming out and watching this. If you'd like to get in touch with me, shoot me a comment in the comment section below or send me an email at what_its_like at a lost and mostly forgotten web provider, yahoo.com, if interested. Thanks again for everything that you bring in the comment section, and until next time, toodaloo! Welcome to the after party. This part of the video doesn't have any sound, but enjoy the car, see all the lines and details that you could normally never see. Enjoy.